Welcome to a very special edition of the Business of Advice podcast. Recently, we hosted our World Series of Success, where we bring together the top advisors in the country to learn, grow, and become better business owners. Every year, we have an incredible lineup of speakers, and because this year was our 20th anniversary, we pulled out all the stops. This episode is a replay of a fireside chat we hosted with a coaching icon, the legendary Duke basketball coach, Coach K. The plan was for it to be a Business of Advice live broadcast, but unfortunately, I was sick. So thankfully, my partner Dave filled in admirably, which is never easy to do at the last minute. We got permission from Coach K to share this interview with our Business of Advice community, so I'm excited to share it with all of you today. I'm not sure there are more than a handful of leaders more successful than Coach K. He won championships in 3 different generations, on top of leading USA basketball to multiple gold medals. I hope you enjoy this conversation and, more importantly, take something from it to become a better leader. Now, let's get to our interview with a true legend, the one and only Coach K. This is the Business of Advice podcast, where we help good advisors become great business owners.
I just want you to know I didn't want to do this interview. I mean, Cody's sick, so if I see how this works.
We have something in common. I didn't want you to do
I
the
know.
interview.
I was already aware.
Thanks for the layup.
I know. There we go. Let's get this started, man. Thank you, sir, for the intro and laying out tactical things people can do. Obviously, over your career, man, 42 years, 1980 to 2022. One of the cool things I thought that was out there, man, 32 head coaches won national championships. You won 5. A few others won 2. And then you were the only coach to win back-to-back since, I guess, the 70s. You know, what I got thinking about as we were talking as a group is, man, we got lots of people in this room that have set records. And maybe like Duke a little bit. They've not set records just for 2024. They set records in 23, and they set records in 22 and 21. How do you get these teams consistently geared up? And what are those tactics that, because your record did show it, man, whether you won the national championship or not, they were ready to go. That team was a winning team every year, whether the final result was national championship or not. How do you do it?
Well, the first thing is I love what I do. I wanted to be a coach since I was 16. I wanted to be a teacher and a coach. And so my buddies in the inner city of Chicago say I've never worked a day in my life, because I've done what I've loved. So if you win or you didn't win the championship, you get a new beginning. How many people get new beginnings? And you get to do it with, there's always a different team. Even if you return everybody the same, they're not the same people that started on the team the year before. So it's exciting to figure out who that team will be and to set the standards high. Like, our goal is to win the national championship. And so then you go for it. And the thing you have to stay hungry about is not wanting to win. That should come natural. You know, you're gonna sit around and say, boy, I wanna lose. You know, there's another conference here for therapy, you know, right? When this one's over, but you have to love preparing to win. The preparation to win. The preparation to win is infinitely more important than the will to win. And but if the two combine, boom. And so I've always loved to prepare to win. I retired when I was 74, not because I didn't like coaching, but the travel of recruiting, and I was an anal preparer. I prepared like crazy. I just, time's up. And so I wasn't worthy to be the coach anymore, in my mind, because I wasn't willing to prepare to win at the level that you needed to be a champion. So, but that whole journey for 50 years, man, I wouldn't change anything, including the losses. I mean, you're not going to win all the time. But if you can learn from wins and losses and maintain that preparation to win and the will to win, it's a pretty exciting life, man. And you know, I've loved it. I still feel I'm young, I'm energetic. I've been around young people my whole life. And I try to teach my 10 grandchildren that. My daughters have it. Like, you know, I've been a lucky guy. And you all been lucky too, or else you wouldn't be in those seats. You know, like in what you've done so far. Keep getting lucky. Yeah, but you get lucky by preparing and wanting to win and forming teams. And that's exciting. And the other thing I would say about that is it's not about how you do something and what you do only. You should embrace why you do it. If you can always understand why you're doing it, not just to make money, but I mean, the lives you influence, the families and the stories, those are the whys. And if you can always understand the why, the how and the what will be a lot easier. And so during these few days, please tell those stories. You already saw a tape of them, man. That was an unbelievable tape. And you know, you all have a tape. You know, and remember to play it every once in a while, you know, to make sure that you keep it going.
You know, over the years, you obviously coached different generations of players. You know,
Right.
Christian Laettner, you know, you get into Shane Battier, you go into Zion Williamson, you go through that process. How did your individual coaching adapt to the individuals? And then maybe even over the years, if you think about maybe the youngest generation you've been coaching, as all of us bring the 20-year-olds into our business, how did you adapt to make that work throughout that spectrum from individuals of who they were and then coaching young people today?
Well, first of all, we always tried to recruit good people. Yeah. You know, so when we recruited, we looked at three things. Talent, they had to be really, you know, talented. You know, you don't win without talent. And they had to fit our environment. Well, Duke's a real good school. They have to be pretty good students. And then character. Were they good guys? You know, they're always the best player on the team, state, you name it. So how did they interact with their teammates when a teammate did something good? When a teammate made a mistake, did they show empathy? When there was a timeout, did they have eye contact with the coach? We got teacher evaluations of them. And then we always watched how they interacted with their parents. Every kid had a mother. Not all the guys had fathers. And my mom was the best person in my life. So I looked at that relationship. And so we ended up recruiting talent with character. We did not recruit talented characters. Big difference. You know, it's a big difference. And then each year, David, I didn't have one system and tried to put them in that system. I tried to take a look I watched my team during the summer and early fall and watched their interactions, their abilities, and then, especially offensively, tried to personalize what we did. And I always coached my best player the hardest, or best players. And I would tell them that, I'm gonna coach you the hardest. Yeah, because if you do what you're supposed to do, and they see me demand that of you, that'll be the biggest force multiplier for the team. And by the way, if that best player kept getting better, there's a good chance we're gonna keep getting better. Especially if they know, the rest of the guys know he's not being treated preferentially. And you know, the best players wanna be coached that way. You know, when I coached the US team, people say, how do you coach all those egos and whatever? Man, they were good. On their individual teams, a lot of people didn't hold them accountable. You know, and then we held each other accountable with our standards and that, and they flourished with that. They loved it. If you're really good, you want to get better. Why would you want somebody coaching you who's not going to make you better? You know, and so the U.S. stuff was lights out for me. It was amazing being with those guys and seeing how they reacted to coaching and being held accountable. Now, I didn't hold them accountable like a young kid, where you would get on them. Like I've gotten on guys pretty hard, and
You want to go through how does that go? I mean, can we have the conversation about how you get on people hard?
like for you, I would kill you. You know,
Why do I talk?
No.
I usually let this go.
but I know you would come back.
I would
know
if you weren't on
come
stage.
back tougher. But it's like with Kobe, I held him accountable, but I did it privately. And they responded. So you just have to figure out personalities on your team, the talent, and then try to personalize it as much as possible. To me, that was fascinating. I love that. I love that aspect of it.
As I've listened to some of your speeches, one of the powerful things that I've thought a lot about, even in our organization, is use captains in a powerful way to drive
Use what?
Captains.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Captains on your team to drive powerful results. You know, all of us, maybe like your coach is the leader of the organizations, but captains are a powerful thing. And I just love like selecting them probably, well, maybe how did you select them? And then ultimately, how did you get them to be world-class captains to drive the results that you needed?
Yeah,
what was your expectations?
Yeah. Leadership is taught, and some kids have been taught in high school or grade school, or some are somewhat natural leaders. And you just have to keep teaching them, just like we talked about leadership. You keep teaching. You'd have individual talks with them. I never had a team. I would say you guys vote for a captain, but remember the coaches are voting also. And then I'm from Chicago, so Mayor Daley, you didn't vote once, you know, you could vote. If I didn't like their decision, I voted more than once. And then do you have one or, you know, with some companies, when you talk about this leader, they have a leadership group where you have representatives from different aspects of your organization where they get together, they share ideas and whatever. And if I was in business, if I was a CEO in a company, I would form that. But it used to be the oldest players were the best players. And then around 2010 with one and done, and now it'll never change, you have a lot of times the youngest players are the best players. And so the old wasn't teaching, it was a different dynamic. So a lot of times I ended up being the captain of our team. You know, like I didn't put it on one guy. And every guy that worked for me, my former players, were former captains. Okay, they all graduated from Duke. And so they helped in that respect. And the older I got, the more I relied on them because they're younger, stayed current. And also institutional memory. Like I coach them, so sometimes they tell you, Coach, remember when you said this, that had an effect on me. Or remember when you said this and it didn't have an effect on me. You know, in other words, you got feedback from that. And again, I wanted everybody to own it, where they weren't working for me, they were working with me. And I gave my assistants a lot of freedom. And they made me look good. They made me look good. There's no question about it.
That's one of my first big notes. You know, all of your assistant coaches were captains of your teams. That goes to, you know, where are we developing? I mean, literally, when they were players, you were already developing your coaching staff for the next 40 years.
Yeah, I knew certain guys, if they wanted to be coaches, like that guy's going to be a good coach.
Yep.
That guy, like with John Shire, when I saw him in high school, he's a savant. He knows the game. And he was a national champion, 2,000-point scorer. And then he went to play in the pros, and he got an eye injury in the NBA Summer League. And he has a hard time seeing out of one eye. And so he only played in the pros overseas for 2 years. And then he lives Chris Collins, one of my guys, is the coach at Northwestern. They went to the same high school. So when John was going to give up basketball playing, he called me. He says, I'm going to go and work for Chris. And I said, are you? I gave some adjectives. Are you the idiot? And he said, what do you mean? I said, you're not going to go work for Chris. You're going to work for me. He says, well, I didn't know I could do that. Well, I knew you could do that. And so get your ass over here. And he's terrific. But I knew that when I saw him play at Glenbrook North in Chicago suburbs. Wojciechowski, Battier, these guys are really, really, they just got it. A lot of the star players now from high school, they're not necessarily leaders, but they're great players. So the best player may not be that guy on your team. It may be another guy who understands that best player and is not jealous of him, but will help him.
I heard you talking about both Duke and Team USA. I think in all of our organizations, sometimes we feel like complacency slips in, whether complacency slips in for a week or a month or hopefully not longer than that. I'm sure at some points in your career, you saw complacency slip into your teams. How did you lead in that environment? What'd you do? Like, how do you approach that when you see that, or how'd you think about it?
Well, depending on different decades, because in the 80s, I'd just really not allow that to happen. And that went into the 90s pretty much. And then you have to adapt, because that doesn't mean you're physically doing it, but kids could take more, or it's just different. And in 2000, again, you have to be honest with them, like, you're not living up to our standards. Like, and there could be some physical punishment of tougher practices or whatever, changes of lineups, or you can't stand pat, though, with it. And the thing I would always tell them, I'm not complacent. And when I recruited you, I told you I'd give you 100%. I never promised a kid playing time or shots or any. I said, I'm going to have you earn it every day. And you know what? I'm going to earn it every day. And I'm going to be enthusiastic every day. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be one of the only people in your life that will always tell you the truth. And I want you to be able to do that too. So whenever they deviated from that, I would have a meeting with, like, what's our agreement, man? I thought we were going to do this together and whatever. And it's part of growing up and being an adult and being responsible and not just saying what you think you're going to do, but actually doing it. That's a great lesson to learn. I wanted the guys that played for me to say that their best class at Duke was my practice, as a teacher and what they learned. And Jim was telling you about our academy, fantasy camp, and our former players. They're good guys, man. And I trust them now when some of them are really old. They're even grandparents. Can you believe that? And but when we're together, it's boom. We're right on, because that's the way we did it all along. The main thing, as long as you're honest with one another. In athletics, you think about speed. How fast you run, how jump, and all that. But the most important speed in what you do in athletics and whatever is the speed to trust. Like, if I said something to you, will you trust me immediately? And will I trust you immediately? It's the most important speed. And if you got it, pretty good. And if you have that and talent and whatever, then you're going, come on, the world's yours. I learned that at West Point as a cadet. We have an honor code: you don't lie, cheat, or steal, or tolerate those who do. You and I are in the same class. I don't know you, you don't know me, you're in the 4th Regiment, 3rd, but after class, you say something to me. I would believe you right away. And if I said something to you, you would believe it. I spent 4 years of my life in utopia. Like, if you can get even close to that with your teams, it's the best. You know, I think one of the reasons our marriage for 55 years, we try to do that with one another. Sometimes it's difficult, there's no question about it. With my daughters, with my grandkids, to me, that's one of the biggest lessons they could learn: the speed to trust, and to be with people that they trust. Huge. Whatever values you have, the first one is trust. It's there. Now, you can put others around it, but it's there, right in the middle.
You said that jumped out at me. You said there's tons of wisdom in that, but I like that line. You said the best class in college was going to be my practice. You know, I think at Advisors Excel, we talk a lot about our team. You know, we say we're going to grow in 3 ways. We're going to help our advisors grow their business. We're going to help grow our impact in the local community. But a big one is we're going to help our team grow both personally and professionally. Yeah. And I like the order. Like, we want our team to get better. I think it's a great message overall for all businesses. And your intentionality around that was you didn't come to college just to learn math and science and all that stuff. You're going to learn leadership in my practice. And I think it's super powerful.
And people skills, you know, how to be on a team. I mean, that's why when I was a cadet at West Point, I'd go up there every year to speak to the cadets. And there's a saying: every cadet an athlete, because part of the educational process for the cadets is being an athlete, whether it be an intramural athlete, a club athlete. You learn a lot from athletics. It's like, you know, it's important in your school districts, and that you should support it, you know, because there's a lot of lessons learned there. And we had a little meet and greet before this, and one of the men there asked, he has a son in 7th grade, or maybe a little bit less, and said, you know, he's pretty good in this. What would you suggest? I'd say, play multiple sports. Don't just play one sport. Now, maybe when you find that you're really good in high school, specialize, but early on, don't specialize, because your body develops differently. Your sports to help you develop your body more, but also you might be real good on one and okay on another. So you learn to be a good teammate. You learn to be a star. You can learn more. So I wouldn't specialize so early. And right now, I advise for the NBA, about 30% of the players in the NBA are international. They're better trained than the US players coming in, because they have a federation way of doing things, and they can practice all the time. But also, most of them have played soccer. I'm not saying a basketball player should, but watch the footwork of all those guys. And if you ever go to an NBA game, and when they're shooting, 3 or 4 of them are kicking the ball and doing all kind of stuff. It's agility, and it's a big thing. It's a big thing. And everyone's saying, well, my kid needs to do this right now. No, your kid needs to be a kid, and learn how to be a kid and how to be a good teammate and win and have fun what they're doing. It can't be, I'm going to go play ball. I'm going to go be with my teammates. I'm going to, you know, and instead of how many points did you score? You know, I got 3 grandkids playing high school basketball, and I never ask them that. I said, did you feel you play hard? And I'm Poppy, you know, my wife's Minnie. And Poppy, what did you think? I said, well, what do you think? Did you give your best? And he said, yeah, but you know, we lost. I said, Could you have played harder? No. I said, could you have talked more? Yeah. It's always, they don't talk. And I said, how are you going to be together if you don't talk? You know, that's the unifying factor. And I said, but have fun in what you're doing. And there's a little bit of an epidemic throughout our country with asking these kids at too young of an age to achieve at a level because we need it for some reason. You know, I just want my kids to be happy, and if they're that good, so be it. Then at a certain time, we'll really go for it. But let's become that. Let's not think at 9, man, you see him swing? You know, he's 9 years old, for Christ's sake. You know, it's not that good of a swing. I've seen better swings. There's an 11-year-old that swings better. Where is he? Maybe he can copy that, you know, like, come on. Just so much, a lot of stupid stuff, really, you know, really stupid stuff.
Who was the team and coach you didn't want to face, and tell a fun story about it?
What's that?
Who was the team or coach you didn't want to face or didn't enjoy facing as much, and tell a fun story?
No, I was never worried about facing a coach. Certainly some teams, yeah, and that were coached by great coaches. But, you know, that was always a challenge, you know. To me, the toughest opponent I've faced my whole career is human nature. You win a big game to get ready for the next one. That's tough. It's tough, and we had many big games, or it was the big game for someone playing against us. How do you beat human nature? I'll give you a current example. I went to Army, and we played Navy in football, and it's a big game. And Navy beat Army. And that settle down, just settle down. Just, yeah, all right. I'm glad we mean that much to you. You know, that, anyway, just shut the hell up. So, Army and Navy are in a new conference. And by the way, Army won the conference. They won it a week before the Army-Navy game. Navy did not play. And so I was talking last week to the Army coach, Jeff Monken, who's a really good guy. And he said, Coach, I could never get them ready. I could never get them ready. After we won that championship, you know, I saw it right away. I gave them a day off. I did this. And I said, you know, when I saw the two teams run out on the field that day, Navy had a bounce, and we didn't have a bounce. He said, I could never get the bounce back. And so Navy was terrific, but we didn't just lose to Navy. We lost to human nature. And a big deal that you have, can you do the same in the next day, the next week? Or on the other side, something difficult happen. A lot of times, it's easier to get over that because you want to rectify something. But even with that, if it's a crushing defeat or you thought you had it and whatever, you know, the best competitors have amnesia. I call it next play. Like throughout my career, I said if I was a car, I wouldn't have a rear view mirror. Because if you keep looking back on good or bad, you're not full steam ahead going ahead. And so much of it's mental, you know, and people-wise. That's why in your organizations, no matter what technology you have, how sophisticated the software you have and whatever, please understand that the most important thing about your organizations are your people. Yeah, and they will make this technology and all that, and they're the ones that have to beat human nature and all that. So, I still get excited talking about this because I've lived a life of that. It's so, and then when when you are successful doing these things, and you're not always successful, but when you're successful a lot, it's very gratifying. So someone says, the best win or whatever, they're all good, man. They're all good, and because I invested the same for each. And however, like winning an Olympics obviously is pretty damn good. Yeah. Because it's the world, and but all this human nature stuff, and what I've sensed in doing my prep work to come here tonight and meet with Cody and the team and you guys is you're a real good people organization. You're good people, and you can even sense it in the mood in the room, and you're happy. But you know what? You're also very proud. You're very proud to be here. I just say in the next couple of days, enjoy it, celebrate, get better, and try to keep being happy, man, in what you're doing, because you got a good thing going. And the happier and more together you're going to be, a lot of history is going to be made. A lot of history is going to be made.
In 2005, you did take over Team USA and obviously led them to 2 gold medals. You didn't have 1 or 2 captains. You had a whole herd of captains. How did you pivot your leadership, leading that group of people versus what you were doing at Duke, to lead kind of the all-stars, the best of the best, to get what you got out of them and really bond them as a team? What were some of the tactics you put in place to lead, I think, the all-stars? Because I think many of our teams have those all-stars, and there may be adaptability you've got to be able to do in that.
Yeah, well, they're older. With young guys, you help them cross bridges. These guys have crossed a lot of bridges. Some that you wouldn't want to cross with them, and so how you communicate with them or whatever. But I tried to motivate them every day, and I tried to develop personal relationships with each one of them. But what I also tried to do is try for them to understand why they were doing what they were doing. So when I met with them the first time, first of all, I said, bring your egos in. I don't believe in that expression, leave your egos at the door. I mean, why would you want anybody who's less of who they are on your team? So bring your ego. And Kobe and LeBron were going to bring their egos in whether I asked them or not, all right? So, but I would tell them, I said, I want you to know you're not playing for the United States. And we always had a picture of the gold medal up. I said, we won't win that gold medal. And then I looked at him, I said, unless you are United States basketball. You have to own it. And so we developed a set of standards. And then I said, you have to feel what we're doing. So the first night, it's a cool story. I told them when they got back up to the room, we're in Las Vegas at the Wynn Hotel. It helps in recruiting them. And I said, when you go up to your suites, look on your beds and be 16 for 1 minute. And what we did, we laid their U.S. uniforms on, their Olympic uniforms. Later that night, I was doing a service for the Wynn. I was checking to see if their video poker machines were working. And they were not, and especially the one that I was sitting at. And it's a true story, really a true story. And all of a sudden, there was a tap on my shoulder, and it was Kobe Bryant. And I said, what's up, Kobe? And he said, Coach, I did what you asked me to do. And I said, what happened? He said, I cried. And I'm not saying you need to cry, but every once in a while, together, why? Alone? We took time really to mindfulness, where you think about those things. And 2 days later, one of my former West Point players, Bob Brown, is a retired 4-star general. He's a colonel and headed a striker unit in Iraq at that time. He brought 3 of his wounded warriors in. Scotty Smiley, an officer who had lost his sight, 2 non-commissioned officers who had lost limbs, and we had them speak to our team about selfless service. And all 3 of these guys made no excuses, and they wanted to serve again. Scotty became the first blind officer to serve in the United States Army. And all my guys were crying. And throughout all the times when I coached U.S. teams, we took time to go to Arlington Cemetery to have military speak and whatever. And it affected these guys in a very positive way. And so what I'm saying is motivation, feeling, not just, because you got to feel, man. You know, the more you feel it, the more you're going to give. And so I did stuff like that, and they loved it. You know, when my youngest daughter, Jamie, wrote a book called The Gold Standard on the Redeem Team, and when she was interviewing Kobe told her, he says, you know, Jamie, I get paid a lot of money to play basketball, and no one motivates me. I motivate me. And your dad and his staff, they tried to motivate us every day. He said it was so cool. And I think they gave something more and something a little bit different. And maybe they took that then to their own teams. And that was kind of the culture we developed for those 11 years with U.S. basketball, where we got a lot of guys who wanted to play again and again. And there was continuity. And you all you need that too, and you have to have a certain level of continuity.
I love how experiences kind of drive the culture. The right experiences, the motivation, the right motivation drives the results that you're trying to get. I thought one more Team USA story. I've just got a couple questions left, but again, I was thinking about preparation, and I spent 4 hours not even knowing I was going to get a chance to sit here listening to your stuff, just because I wanted to be ready to make this my best experience, sitting out there in the chair, and whole Cody wasn't feeling good, and I got a chance to sit up here, and I heard a story of another experience you created in New York for the guys at the Statue of Liberty, and I thought that'd just be another example of like, are we setting these experiences for our team to drive their powerful why? I'd love you to tell that story.
Yeah,
as
we
well.
would take iconic pictures, like we did a tour of New York City, then we went on a ferry into the harbor, and they were in suits and then in their uniforms, and with the Statue of Liberty in the background. They all lined up and, were taking a picture, and then, it hit, like Carmelo said, Coach, this is big time. I said, you're damn right, it's big time. And then I made up part of a story. As a leader, you have the license to do that.
You were talking about truth and trust. I just want to be clear.
Sometimes
I set you up, just so you know. That was a pretty good one there.
So this is a cool thing, though. We're getting ready to go back, and I bring everybody to the side of the ferry, and I said, you guys see the Statue of Liberty? He said, you know what that other place is over there? And one of them said, it's Ellis Island. And I said, yeah, it's Ellis Island. This was 2008, and this is true. This is the true part of the story. And I said, 100 years ago, my grandfather, Joseph Pituk, came from Poland and was on Ellis Island. I have the docket. I have where he came over. And he was standing there with 2 suitcases. On his right was Wally, on his left was Stash. Come on, he's Polish. It's Wally and Stash. And this is where I embellished a little bit. So I said, and my grandfather said, Wally, Stash, 100 years from now, my grandson Mike is going to coach the U.S. Olympic team. Wally and Stash said, you're a dumb Polak. There's no way that, no, my grandson's going to be that good. And the guys are laughing and whatever. And then we got serious because I knew something a little bit about a number of their backgrounds. Some slavery, a whole bunch of different things. And all of a sudden the mood got quiet. And I get chills thinking about it, because sometimes you set a moment up then for another moment. And the Olympic gold medal game was going to be played on August 24th. And I said, on August 24th, and we had termed our national anthem to be our fight song. Our fight song is going to be played before the game. Your hand is going to be over your heart. And I want you to dedicate that game to the person who made it possible for you to be on this boat today. And I said, close your eyes and put that in your memory bank. And so August 24 comes, and if you saw a tape, you'd see a few of our guys crying when that was happening. And I said, and after that game, when they put those gold medals around your neck, I want you to say a prayer to that person, for that person. And so things like that, where it was manufactured, but it's a beautiful story, man. And
Thanks for giving me shivers, dude. That's amazing.
no, but they don't. How many times has LeBron been told a story? You know what I mean? Or Kobe, or like, they don't get stories. Pay them some more money and we'll get that. So
I'm going to buy about an extra 5 minutes if that's okay, because I got two last questions. And one's super important to me because we're all going to come together and make a difference throughout today. And I know you were there at the origin of the V Foundation. Jimmy V was an amazing friend of yours. I know you continue to be on the board of that. You've raised tons of money through your event, your wine event through California that you've done for years. Just share with these guys why, maybe share a little bit about Jimmy V and why that connected you, and then ultimately why you've been so passionate to work so hard to raise so darn much money for that, because I know it's because you know it makes a difference, but I think they ought to hear it from you.
Yeah, well, Jimmy and I didn't like one another. We played against each other, Rutgers and Army. He was at Iona and I coached at Army. Then we came down to the ACC together, State, Duke, and then he got out of coaching. He's kind of forced out of coaching. Went into broadcasting, we became good friends. Then when he was diagnosed with an incurable cancer, we have a great medical center at Duke, and Cancer Comprehensive Center. I spent maybe 3 nights a week with him, the two of us alone in his room. And he was just funny, he's just an amazing guy. And in one of those nights, and there was divine intervention with him, because he had incurable cancer. And it made him so angry because he found out that only 1 in every 6 researchers got money. He said, one of those 5 who didn't get probably would have found a cure for my cancer. And he says, I want to start a foundation. I'm going to try to get ESPN to do it, because I'm not going to be living, but I want to be there when we beat cancer. And he said, would you be on my team? And I said, damn right, I'll be on your team. So 31 years later, I'm on that team. We've raised $400 million, and every penny goes to cancer research. And this is a really cool story, and it's not embellished. So I host the V Foundation Wine Celebration for 20 years. It's 25 years old, and we raised like $165 million. It's a big-time event in Napa, and I do a motivational thing. We have a big auction and whatever, and we have 30 of the top oncologists in the country. We have our board meeting there, but we hold a symposium, and we honor these docs. They're at all the great cancer research centers in the United States. And so they named the symposium this year after the Krzyzewski family, which is an honor. And they gave one of the research grants to a Dr. Sita Kugel at Hutchinson Cancer Center in Seattle. The morning of the symposium, my wife and I have breakfast with Sita. She's that tall, cute as can be. She lost her husband to cancer, father, and whatever. And I said, what are you working on? And it's the cancer that killed Jimmy. It's crazy. This is crazy. God is unbelievable that works in this way. And so I said, well, where are you at? And she said, Coach, we're close to clinical trials. Well, if you get to clinical trials, you got a chance. And he said, but we're going to we're trying about $150,000 more dollars, and we're trying to get companies. So that night, after I give my talk, and we have this great auctioneer getting ready to raise money with 25 different lots, I said, look, before John Curley comes up, I have the first lot. And I brought Sita up to the stage. And I explained, I said, look, we need $150,000. Mickey and I are going to give $100,000. I want to know if any of you will give $100,000. And immediately 12 to 13 paddles went up. And we raised $1.4 million. And Sita's crying like crazy. And miracles like that happen when you bring good people together for the right reasons, and you have events and whatever. So I know we're one of the causes that you're supporting. Please know, every penny, boom, goes right to cancer, and we're winning. We're not losing, we just haven't won. And Jimmy will be there when we win. I believe that. And so anyway, that's why I'm involved, and makes me feel good to be involved with that.
Before I started, I picked the closing question because I had a feeling you were going to give us a vision of a world-class culture. And I thought maybe the appropriate last thing to ask you would be, what were the principles and foundations you put together at Duke and then in Team USA to ensure that you had, or you ultimately ran, this world-class culture that we can take away and use in our day-to-day business and frankly, day-to-day lives, as I've listened to you talk over the last hour?
Yeah, well, real quick, because you can get tired of not just the leader's voice, but a Pollock up here talking about his past, especially an old one. We had 7 values for our program and for USA Basketball. Integrity, do the right thing, respect, everyone's important. Everyone. The people who clean the floor, everybody. Know their names, say please and thank you. You know, be respectful. Courage to say or do what needs to be said or done, when it needs to be said or done. Selfless service. Loyalty, okay? Loyalty. Duty, everyone has their job, come and do your job. And trust. And the value-based organizations stand the test of time. So I'll end with this is a pretty good story, and it's all true, all right? So we're playing in our last national championship, 2015, and we're playing Wisconsin. Anybody from Wisconsin? Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to be like the arrogant Navy guys and say anything bad about, nope, we got this. All right, and Wisconsin had a great team. They could have won 2 in a row. They were there 35 wins 2 years in a row. And we're playing in Indianapolis. And 2 months before that, I had dismissed one of our players, and we only had 8 players left. And I brought my team in the next morning, and I said, there's an old show, 8 is enough. 8 will be enough. And I said, and I told them, we're gonna win the national championship. And on a chalkboard I said, 8 is a beautiful number. I said, look at number 1. It has no character, it's a line. 4, what the hell is 4 doing? It can't stay in a straight line. 6 is really in trouble, all right? And 9 is 6 drunk, you know? And I said, now look at 8, and it flowed so, it was never ending, and then I drew it sideways. And I said, you know what that means? And he said, yeah, infinity. That's who we're gonna be. No weak links, we're gonna go after this. And we kept developing. And the 8th man on our team on that year was Grayson Allen, who plays for the Phoenix Suns. He's 18 years old. And he didn't play, he had DNPs that year, did not play in games. But we respected him, he kept getting better, he got playing time, whatever, and started contributing, okay, and really helped us. So we're down in the second half, and we're kind of dead in the water. And I put Grayson in, our 8th man. And by the way, in that game, he scored 8 points. Crazy. Basketball gods are screwy, you know? And so he hits a couple buckets, and I look good. And then he makes a play that is really as good a play as anybody has ever made at Duke for us. And it's a loose ball. At one free throw line, there was a loose ball, and a Wisconsin player and Grayson were going for the ball. And Grayson got fouled, but still dove for the ball. And when he dove for the ball, he's such a good athlete. He's 18, he gets up, and there's 73,000 people in the stands, and 30 million people are watching. And this kid's 18 and the 8th man on our team. And he says, "Let's go!" And he looks like a stud, you know, which he is. And then 2 seconds later, he said, "Let's go!" And it was like a lightning bolt. All of a sudden, I became a better coach, Tyus Jones a better point guard, Jahlil Okafor a better player. We started defending Kaminsky and Decker better from Wisconsin. And we ended up winning the national championship. Later that night, again, my wife and I had been married 46 years at that time. We get along well. And we're together, and I said, "Mickey, it's the greatest thing in the world. Like, we won because of one of our values." This kid had the courage to say that in front of, he's 18, you know, like I didn't even have to call a play. And then she interrupted me. She says, well, why didn't you? And I said, "Just hold on, hotshot. Let me finish my story." And they interrupt. Just settle down a little bit. And I said, like, it's the greatest thing. Like, how could that happen? And then she said, "No, it wasn't." And guys, this is where you don't say anything, all right? Just pause a little bit before the next thing you say, you're going to be held accountable for. But again, I paused. I'm 46 years, I understand that, but I still have to say anything. And ladies, you'll see this. So my beggar hands go out and say, "All right, what was more important?" And the needle comes in again and says, "Well, obviously, it was because everyone listened." Damn, she was right. We won because of 2 of our values. And so as you go forward with your team, celebrate your values. We should have courage, but everyone's important. So when somebody has to say something on your team, listen. And you know what? I think you'll write even more history than you ever thought you would write. So anyway, thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
It's easy to listen to Coach K and understand how he made Duke University basketball the dynasty it became. During his talk, he delved deep into the essence of talent, emphasizing that while skill is crucial, finding the right culture fit and character is paramount. There isn't an advisor I speak with that hasn't found out that the wrong culture fit will hurt you more than someone who has a lack of talent. Coach K also shared that the best players not only welcome, but thrive under accountability. Think of your best teammates. Are they asking you for feedback, or do they shy away from it? Do they want to be pushed, or do they try to hide? Then, Coach K closed by highlighting Grayson Allen's journey, celebrating the importance of staying true to your values, but also looking for that teammate who's ready to thrive and hustle when they get the opportunity. His insights were a compelling reminder that success isn't just about talent, but about building a cohesive, value-driven team. Remember, as Coach K illustrates, leadership is about instilling accountability, embodying your values, and sometimes stepping up to lead from the front. If you enjoyed this episode of the Business of Advice podcast, make sure you hit subscribe, join us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn so you're the first to know about new episodes. And more importantly, if you found this episode valuable, do me a huge favor and go leave a 5-star review so others can find this content and benefit from it. I know don't ask for a review ever, but I would greatly appreciate it as our team puts in a lot of hard work to produce great content for all of you. And finally, remember, our world needs great leaders more than ever today, so go be great.